Hello, this is Elliot at the Audible Local Ledger with the Cape Cod Chronicle on Thursday, October 24th, 2024. In today's news, the parking is a problem at the Gift House. Department of Public Works and advocates are pledged to work towards a solution, by Ryan Bray. As the Gift House at the Orleans transfer station continues to grow in popularity, parking designated for its operations hasn't. The Gift House, along with the neighboring Fun House, the utility shed, welcome visitors to bring their used and unwanted items and take home things they might find there in return. The volunteer-run operation allows access to quality goods for people in the community in need and offers a social outlet for people who enjoy the hunt for great finds. It is kind of unique community spirit and vibe that I really haven't seen in another place, Martha Sherrills, the Gift House volunteer coordinator for the past 17 years, told the Select Board October 16th. It kind of has this feeling of a sacred zone. The Gift House also helps lessen the amount of materials entering the solid waste stream, according to Rich Waldo, the town's public works director. He said ensuring smooth operations at the Gift House offers a mutual benefit to both advocates and the Public Works Department. It serves a lot of communities, he told the Select Board. It serves the underprivileged people who aren't able to get certain furniture. It serves kids that are looking for a puzzle or a bike. It also defers things out of our waste stream. But the 8 parking spaces designated for the Gift House, which is open Friday through Monday from 10:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m., have grown insufficient as more and more people continue to visit the property. Cheryl says as many as 100 to 200 people can visit the shop on a busy summer day. It was slow, very noticeable uptick once we opened up after the pandemic in 2021, Cheryl said. In 2022, it was even busier. The original Gift House, which Cheryl said operated out of a small shed, was removed from the property back when the landfill was capped. Planning for the existing Gift House began in 2006, and it opened its doors in 2008. For a good 10 years, we never ever had to meet with anyone, Cheryl said when reached by phone after the meeting. We were under the radar, low-key. We were very quiet. Over time, operations at the new Gift House became more formalized. In 2020, a shed that was formerly used to house collections gathered by the Boy Scouts was relocated next door to the Gift House and rebranded as the Fun House, a place to accept children's toys and games. Most recently, a white shed was brought to the area for additional storage, placing a large car tent that failed to keep goods dry in periods of stormy weather. The lack of parking has also led to issues including queued cars that occasionally interfere with the other transfer station operations. Cheryl said there have been near accidents involving pedestrians and verbal spats due to the lack of parking. It's also led people to parking their vehicles in unauthorized areas, she said. I would love to see just 20 spaces, she said. Advocates for the Gift House have brought their concerns to town officials in recent weeks, including to the Select Board and the Public Works Department. Susan Bushart told the Select Board last week that a recent meeting with Waldo and Deputy DPW Director Calvin Sutton failed to reach a solution for the parking dilemma. The upside, it's a first step in a process that, if continued, can result in positive changes, she said. Bushart suggested that an area dedicated to wood chips and compost abutting the Gift House could be moved to the former site of the Boy Scouts collection building. The move could open up the space needed for more parking, she said. Both programs could continue and thrive, she said. It's an option I believe is worthy of continued conversation and consideration. But Waldo said the town is limited in what it can accommodate for parking based on an agreement with the State Department of Environmental Protection that governs its use. He said 15 acres of the 19.7-acre property is capped landfill space, the use of which is heavily restricted. Meanwhile, only 7,000 square feet is designated for Gift House operations under the DEP agreement. Any new parking for the Gift House would need to be designed in such a way as not to interfere with the DPW activity behind the building. Waldo said, heavy equipment that operates in the area could pose a danger to volunteers and shoppers, he said. Recently, he noted, approximately 10 tons of recycled material spilled in the area when a trailer cable broke. Andrea Reed of the Select Board asked if it might be possible to relocate the gift house, funhouse, and shed up the hill slightly to the Public Works headquarters, but Waldo said the property serves as a fueling depot for Public Works, police, fire, and fire vehicles, and is also used to train drivers for their CDL licenses. We hate to say no, but the fact is, it's a no, he said. We can't go into that area. It's just not a viable solution. Waldo said that it's possible to modify the town's agreement with the DEP, but he cautioned that the process for doing so is difficult. Others offered simpler solutions. Orleans resident Jeff Webb, an engineer by trade, said more spots could be gained by restripping the existing lot at what he called a very minor amount of expense. Reed called for a solution that balances the interests of both the Public Works Department and gift house proponents. You have an essential safety function for our community that has to be respected, she said. At the same time, we have this beloved other function that we should find room for somewhere in the town. Others at last week's meeting asked why the gift house, which typically runs year-round, will be closed January, February, and March. Cheryl said the DPW requested the closure to allow more time to figure out a solution to the parking issue. But what I'm really hoping is if we close, we'll be able to open in the spring and we'll have a solution, she said. While a fix has yet to be revealed, Waldo told the Select Board that the department will continue to work with residents and gift house volunteers. Instead of pitting against each other, I think we should work together to find these solutions. And I tell you right now, Calvin and I are committed to doing that. Ann Lake, a resident of Beach Road, advocated for the Select Board to create a subcommittee to look into options of creating more parking at the gift house. But Select Board Chair Mark Matheson said he favored letting proponents continue to work towards a solution with DPW. I'm not sure having the Select Board get in the middle of it is going to add to the process, he said. Maintenance problems plague cemeteries, commissioners, more staff, and equipment needed, by Tim Wood. A lack of staff and proper equipment is impacting the town's ability to maintain its cemeteries, according to members of the Cemetery Commission. Even though money was appropriated for personnel and equipment dedicated to the cemetery department, contractors had to be hired to cut grass and perform other maintenance at cemeteries because the staff hasn't been hired, commissioners told the Select Board last week. It went to the town meeting, it got passed, it was in the budget, but we never got it, said Commission member William Bystrom. The Commission had just one response to requests for contractors to mow the cemetery lawns last year, but the contractor lacked the ability to mow the grass in a consistent manner. So part of the cemetery is always going to look shabby, he said. The town has 4 active cemeteries and 11 that are inactive and considered historical. All have to be maintained to one extent or another. At times, cemetery commissioners have done maintenance work themselves, trimming vegetation and picking up trash and debris. Commissioner Peter Gaines, whose home overlooks Seaside Cemetery, said that maintenance has been sporadic. At times, only a portion of the grass would be cut. It just got to the point where it looked terrible, he said. A few relatives of those buried in the cemeteries have complained about the lack of maintenance. It's hard to respond to situations like that, Gaines said, especially since a perpetual maintenance fee is included in the cost of cemetery plots. Chair David Whitcomb said the cemetery's perpetual care fund totals $540,000, but the commissioners have been told that only a small portion of that can be used annually. He asked the Select Board to clarify how much of the fund can be used to maintain the cemeteries. It makes no sense to have that much money sitting in a bank when the care of the cemeteries is needed now, he said. The past several years has been a period of transition for the cemetery department, Whitcomb said. It was transferred from the park department to the Department of Public Works, which has had 3 different directors in recent years and has been relocated to 4 different offices and lost its longtime administrator. For a long time, because there was no central locus for the cemetery department, information was carried from place to place in shoeboxes, Bystrom said. While the administrative side of the department now has an office at Cromwell Road DPW and a full-time administrator, the maintenance side remains inadequate, the commissioner said. In 2022, funds were approved as part of the DPW budget to hire 3 full-time staff members to work with both the park and cemetery departments, with one ideally slated to be a foreman in charge of the cemetery maintenance, Bystrom said. In 2023, $165,000 was included in the capital budget for equipment to be shared by the cemetery and park departments, Whitcomb added. A pickup truck and mower were purchased, but he questioned if the equipment met the criteria for use in the cemeteries, which is unique because of the need to mow around gravestones. Whitcomb noted that the DPW is the town's largest department, and under its umbrella are the water and sewer, park, recreation, beaches, highway, and transfer station operations, and cemeteries. As good a job as they're doing, Whitcomb said, cemeteries sometimes fall between the cracks. There's no excuse for not maintaining cemeteries, said Select Board member and Cemetery Commission liaison Jeff Dykins. We need to support the commission. We need to improve and take care of them, he said. We should be proud of our cemeteries. Board member Dean Nicastro said to the extent to which perpetual care funds can be used for annual maintenance needs to be explored further. People pay that with the expectation the town is going to take care of the grounds, he said. Commissioners have been told that no one is applying for the maintenance positions. That isn't good enough anymore, Whitcomb said. He suggested that the salaries or benefits might have to be increased to attract applicants. Just saying we're the same as every town isn't working, he said. Continuing to use contracted labor isn't getting the job done and will likely cost more in the long run, he added. With the formulation of next year's budget just beginning, the cemetery will get a higher profile. Select Board Chair Michael Schell assured the commissioners. Page 2, a spotlight on Lower Cape personalities and visionaries. A homecoming for new Brewster Baptist Church minister by Elizabeth Van Wy. There's no place like home, Pastor Nate Ryan, a film buff, would probably agree with what Dorothy said in The Wizard of Oz. Ryan, the new pastor at Brewster Baptist Church, BBC, grew up in Brewster and attended the church for most of his life. But if you told me I would be helped leading the ministry in the place that helped me and formed me, I would have laughed, he said recently. Ryan was born in Baton Rouge and moved to Brewster when he was 3 after his maternal great-grandfather, who had retired here, passed away in 1999. The family joined the Brewster Baptist Church, and Ryan started attending Sunday school when he was in kindergarten. By the time he was in early middle school, his parents were going through divorce. There was brokenness in the home, and the perceptive youth ministers here at BBC saw it was hurting, he recalled. He was encouraged to become involved in, and he recalled Sunday night youth group games and Bible study, as well as additional events throughout the year. When he was 12 and in 6th grade, he attended a winter session at Camp Berea and found the experience was life-changing. He recalled finding profound peace in the midst of dysfunction. It was a painful time in my life, and I felt known by God, Ryan said. He returned from camp feeling the church was a safe refuge for him. Being involved with BBC gave me a family, he recalled. I felt safe and supported and welcomed by a community that valued me. By the end of his sophomore year, he began to think about the ministry. I knew my story was not the only one like it, he recalled. A lot of kids from broken homes needed to be loved. His guidance department at school wanted him to go in a different direction, offering science or technology as better choices, he recalled. But I hoped to study theology, and that's what I did. After graduation from Nauset High School, Ryan pursued ministry and Bible studies in Gordon College, a Christian liberal arts college in New England. It was there that he met his wife Jenny, a local performance and music education student. He graduated from Gordon in 2019. The summer after college, before he was about to start graduate school, he needed a summer job. He was offered an internship at BBC. As COVID spread, he would lead Wednesday night services held outdoors. He was grateful to Senior Pastor Doug Scalise for giving him the opportunity. He not only believed in me, but he gave me a platform, he said. He continued his internship in 2020 and felt the experience had taught him a lot, including how to navigate a ministry in crisis. Ryan earned his master's degree in theology and ministry from Boston College in 2021. He and Jenny married and moved to West Springfield in northwest Pennsylvania. For 3 years, he served as pastor of the West Springfield Baptist Church, a church of several dozen members where he conducted services, preached, and held adult Sunday school, and provided pastoral care and counseling. By March of this year, he and Jenny realized they were open to moving on. The idea of returning closer to their families, Jenny's parents lived in Bedford, appealed to them, and they began to look at his options. It was Jenny who suggested he reach out to Pastor Scalisi for guidance, and the next day he called. As it turned out, there was an opening that was a good fit for his skills at BBC, working as head of the youth ministry and also overseeing the more than 24 adult small groups. In June, he was hired as one of BBC's 4 ministers. The couple returned to Brewster and he started work at the end of August. Jenny was able to find a job teaching music at Nauset High School, Brian's alma mater. A music lover, Brian, a baritone, is excited to volunteer for the church choir along with Jenny. The couple take long walks with their basset hound, Squiggles, and root for Nate's favorite team, the New York Jets. Working with 6 to 12 graders is like homecoming for Ryan. It's an honor and a privilege, he said, and it makes me feel a little old, he said with a smile. The volunteers he's working with are the same volunteers that helped him feel welcome and loved when he's going through difficult times. Things have come full circle in a special way, he said. He sees his role as unique. I'm not looking at my engagement with students as impersonal, he said. I believe in the power because my life was saved. I remember those struggles as an adolescent, and I know why those words and gestures help me feel loved. Locals Helping Locals. An Eldridge Farm Tradition Supports Families by Mackenzie Blue. Community. That's the term that comes to mind for Jeff Eldridge when describing the upcoming event at his farm. At least one time a year, it brings everyone together, which is so important. It's something we're kind of missing, he said. Eldridge and his wife Laura are hosting their 12th annual farm party on October 26th, starting at noon. It's a free event, open to the public, with food, drinks, backyard games, hay rides, and now renowned Dirtiest Kid contest, where kids have access to a massive pile of dirt, and the winner is determined by their messiness. To fundraise for their foundation, the event will have merchandise for sale, a live auction, silent auction, and raffles. Eldridge started the Eldridge Farm Foundation after losing a close friend to cancer, seeing the toll it had on his friend's 3 young children, and seeking out the resources to make an impact. I'm trying to fill the gaps that come about when you get an illness, he said. The foundation has paid for mortgages, filled fuel tanks, and even covered funeral costs. We wanted to have a fund already ready to go because they're in crisis. You can't wait for those things, said Laura. As Jeff and Laura reflected on over a decade's worth of stories, it was clear how invested they are in seeing their community thrive. With tears in her eyes, Laura said, "We've had families where the person has gotten well, and they've turned around and given that money back to the foundation to help the next person who needs it. It's a stepping stone to make sure they don't go off and lose everything." Eldridge's membership in the Harwich Dennis Rotary Club provided the founding principles for his own charitable endeavor, with its motto, "Service above self," as a continued source of inspiration. I want to thank the Harwich Dennis Rotary for making this all happen. I facilitated, but they've been awesome in their support, he said. While it took a few years to establish the foundation, the Eldridges are now able to see the fruits of their labor. With a generous number of donations and sponsorships, around 115 this year alone, they're hoping this year's event will be overwhelmingly successful. But at the end of the day, Jeff and Laura just want one thing, to help their community. I'm hoping this year brings happiness to people. That's the goal, Jeff said. Eldridge Farm is located at 681 Cranberry Trail in Brewster, just off of Squantum Path. Cape and Island Senate candidates state their case at Forum by Ryan Bray. Julian Cyr and Christopher Lozon stand on opposite sides of the political spectrum, but both can agree that times have grown increasingly difficult for people trying to make a living on Cape Cod and the islands. I ran on the issue realizing that if the Cape Codders and Islanders of my generation didn't step it up and get involved, we don't face a future of year-round community, particularly on the lower and upper Cape and at the islands, said Cyr, the Provincetown Democrat who has held the Cape and Islands state Senate seat since 2016. Luzon, a mechanic born and raised in Marston Mills, said he's also concerned with how the growing cost of housing in the region is impacting residents today and how it will continue to impact future generations without some creative problem solving. The direction the state is going, my kids won't be able to make a future here unless we change some of these policies, he said. But while they both share an understanding of what the major issues they're facing, Cape and Island residents, the incumbent and challenger for the Senate seat in November's general election, have differing viewpoints on how to arrive at a solution. This is Luzon's second run at unseating Cyr, having previously challenged him for the seat in 2022. On October 18th, he joined Cyr and a third candidate, Joe Van Ness of West Tisbury, in a candidates forum hosted by the League of Women Voters at Lower Cape TV in Orleans. A graduate of Louisiana State University, Luzon worked for Highline Cruises before joining his family business, Alignments Plus Auto Repair in Hyannis. He said issues including housing, immigration, and wastewater management led him to run for a seat in 2022. This time around, we've built a much broader coalition, and I'm proud of that, he told attendees last week's forum. We worked hard, and we just need to change things on Beacon Hill. Cyr championed his many achievements in his 8 years as senator, including his work in helping create the Cape and Islands Water Protection Fund, which since 2018 has brought in $204 million in outside funding for local wastewater projects. The fund is financed through a 2.75% surcharge on hotel stays and short-term rentals in the region. About 25% of the cost of the sewer projects are being covered by the Cape Cod and the Islands Water Protection Fund. He said, noting that the fund has brought approximately $11 million in wastewater funds to Chatham, $16 million to Orleans, and $19 million to Harwich. Cyr also touted his efforts in securing abortion services on the Cape and Islands, his efforts to help ensure a consistent funding stream for police training in the region, and his work to address the issue of forever chemicals associated with PFAS. I've been able to get twice as much done as I thought on Beacon Hill, even when Beacon Hill can be dysfunctional, he said. But Luzon said state government can work better for Cape and Island residents. Part of the problem, he said, is the overwhelming Democratic supermajority that exists in both the State House and the Senate. We need more effective representation, he said. We need a strong two-party system. That's how our government is set up. That's how it works most efficiently. Cyr said that the supermajority is a referendum on the divisive nature of politics at the federal level and the more extreme direction the Republican Party has moved in recent years. He also said that Democrats, including members of the Cape delegation, have represented residents well. On the Cape, Cyr holds a leadership role as the Assistant Majority Whip in the Senate, while his colleague, former State Representative Sarah Peake, Democrat Provincetown, served as the House Second Assistant Majority Leader before she resigned earlier this fall. Those positions allow officials to better advocate for Cape and Island residents, he said. I don't think Cape Cod and the islands have had this kind of heft in the legislature in a very, very long time, if ever, he said. Van Ness, a farmer, cited a needed revision of Chapter 61A, the provision of state law governing the assessment and taxation of agricultural and horticultural land. The law recognizes farmers as those landowners with 8 acres of farm land or more, and assesses a tax rate of $6 an acre for properties that apply. But property owners who don't qualify, like Van Ness, whose farm is 3.5 acres, are assessed thousands of dollars in taxes a year. He's proposing that the tax be revised to apply to landowners who own at least an acre of farmland. The banks are coming down on us, and more of us are being forced to take out loans and pay interest and go into debt, he said. On housing, Sear lauded the recent passage of the $5.1 billion Affordable Homes Act, which includes incentives and programs geared towards boosting the creation of affordable and attainable housing across the state, as well as the preservation of existing housing. Lozon said that while the bill has got some good things, he was concerned about the heft of the bill. There's too much in there for it to be really understood to begin with, he said. A lot of people aren't reading through all of that when they're voting on it, our legislators. Lozon was critical of the seasonal communities provision in the bill, designed to greater incentivize the creation of affordable and attainable housing for towns that qualify, including those on the Cape. Specifically, he opposes mandates in the provision that require towns to adopt or revise their local bylaws to allow for the creation of merger lots and tiny homes. At last week's forum, Lozon called himself a very strong supporter of local control and said towns should have the right to create policies that make sense for their residents. I think that's the opposite of what we should be doing, he said, of mandates included in the new housing bill. I think we should be empowering our communities to come up with solutions that work for them. Sear said the Affordable Homes Act was authored and with direct input by towns and what issues they wanted to see addressed in legislation. He added that the bill allows towns to act faster in the creation of year-round deed restrictions, local year-round housing trusts, and housing for municipal workers, all of which would have required individual votes and individual town meetings to go through the legislative process, he said. Lozon also opposes a real estate transfer fee, which towns could choose to assess at a certain amount of property sales at or over a certain dollar level. I say we're already overburdened with taxes and fees and regulations, he said. The state does not have a revenue problem. It has a spending problem. But Sear said the proposed transfer fee comes from the support of 12 of the Cape Islands' 19 communities that have filed individual home rule petitions with the state legislatures seeking the authority to assess it. Without a transfer fee, we're not going to have the resources to solve the problem, he said. Sear and Lozon were more in agreement on other issues, including the need to hold offshore and wind developers more accountable to problems with their projects as they arise. This summer, a blade broke off of a turbine built as part of the ongoing Vineyard Wind project, leaving fragments of fiberglass to spill into the ocean, some of which was washed up on the shores of Nantucket and were found in the waters off Monomoy Island. Sear called the blade failure unacceptable and stressed the need for wind developers to be good neighbors with their respective communities. But he said he stood behind the pursuit of clean energy projects. Broadly, I think this is something the Cape Codders and Islanders should be proud of, he said. Lozon disagreed, saying that offshore wind is not the answer. Specifically, he said studies have shown that Vineyard Wind will have no impact on the ongoing climate crisis. All three candidates at last week's forum voiced support for LGBTQ rights. Sear, who identifies as queer, said the progressive as Massachusetts has been on the LGBTQ front, the state has been resting on its laurels. Sear was the lead sponsor in legislation that passed in August, updating the state's parentage laws to be more inclusive. Lozon, meanwhile, said that one's sexual identity should be a non-issue of elected officials. It doesn't matter to me, he said. I want to represent everyone. Van Ness seized on the framing of LGBTQ issues as my body, my choice to advocate for the need for more food choices for consumers. He said locally grown and sourced food is a healthier alternative to chemically laced processed foods, he said, are increasingly being pushed on people. The candidates also spoke in opposition to Holtec's plan to dump treated nuclear wastewater into the Cape Cod Bay. Sear said he'd been fighting the issues tooth and nail since before he was elected senator. No way in hell on my watch will we be seeing dumping in Cape Cod Bay, he said. Lozon called the issue no-brainer and questioned Holtec's true motivations behind the proposal. What was the plan for his radioactive waste to begin with, he asked. And, despite their differences, both Sear and Lozon spoke of a need to rise above the political divisiveness that have taken over politics, especially at the federal level. I think it's critical that we really take the politics out of it as much as we can and say, look, community is concerned about affordability. They're concerned about housing. They're concerned about the migrant situation is now making these problems even worse. Sears said he learned early on being elected senator that working across party lines is possible. That was a really powerful lesson. I find this time and time again that we're really engaged community, and that most people want to solve a problem and focus on doing the work without getting mired in this nasty, unconstructive politics that we've seen certainly at the federal level. He said that's been a real gift that's taken with me, and I've tried to emulate. Today's obituaries. It is with a heavy heart that we announce the passing of Laura Lynn Savati Coburn, age 69, of Chatham, formerly of New Jersey, who passed away peacefully with her devoted husband by her side on October 14th at the McCarthy Care Center in East Sandwich after a long battle with cancer. She was a loving mother to her children, Sarah, RJ, and Nellie, and beloved wife to Bruce Coburn, with whom she recently celebrated 32 years of marriage. He was her biggest supporter and best friend. Born in Allentown, Pennsylvania, Laura was the daughter of the late Dr. Eugene P. Savaldi and the late Laura Dawson of Savaldi. She grew up in Plainfield, New Jersey, with her 5 sisters and 2 brothers. She was affectionately known as Peanut by her father. After elementary school at St. Mary's in Plainfield, she graduated from Union Catholic High School in Scotch Plains, where she was a cheerleader. She earned her bachelor's in elementary education at Dayton University in Ohio, after which she was an elementary school librarian and classroom teacher in New Jersey. She continued her education, earned a master's in educational technology, and her school library media specialist certification. In 2009, Laura accepted a position as school librarian at Nantucket Elementary School, a role she embraced with passion and commitment. She started working at Nantucket Intermediate School in 2016. Laura fostered a love for reading and learning in countless students. She retired in 2019. Laura was a devoted mother to Sarah, RJ, and Nellie, always providing love, support, and encouragement to pursue their dreams. Her greatest joy and love in life after being a mother was becoming a Mimi to all her soon-to-be 8 grandchildren, continuing with her love of reading her grandchildren's fondest memories and of her reading books, taking them to the bakery and to the park, and of course, visiting the penny candy store in Chatham. Laura and her husband Bruce enjoyed traveling together and made several trips to Europe, one of their favorites being the Viking River cruise, where they traveled down the Rhine, exploring different parts of Europe. They also traveled to Florida to visit family regularly. She also loved her 2 golden retrievers, Murphy, who was a regular with her and Bruce on the Nantucket Ferry, and then Annie, who never left her side. Laura would on occasion be caught sneaking them food under the table, despite playful protests from her many dinner guests. Laura was very creative and full of nonstop energy. She loved to paint rooms and redecorate. If you were working on a project in your home, Laura was more than willing to come and help you with it, even if she barely knew you. She was always willing to help with whatever anyone needed. She enjoyed decorating her home for each holiday season and hosting large family parties where she spoiled her family with fantastic home-cooked meals. In addition to her husband, she was survived by her children, stepchildren, grandchildren, 8 nieces, nephews, great-niece, 5 grandnephews, predeceased by her sister Barbara. Laura's kindness touched so many, and her spirit will live on in our hearts and memories, reminding us to cherish each moment. May we honor her memory by living fully and loving deeply. John Robert Root of Chatham passed away peacefully Thursday, October 17th, at the age of 94. His long and rich life was filled with happiness and great satisfaction, punctuated by the many achievements which brought him an immense sense of fulfillment and about which his family and friends are extremely proud. John's long life began on July 13, 1930 in Jersey City, New Jersey, born to John and Julia Root. He spent his childhood in Irvington, New Jersey, and attended public schools until graduation in 1947. In high school, he participated in the orchestra, marching band, glee club, and football. He was also inducted to the local De Malloy chapter, a Masonic sect for young men. Always an industrious young man, while still in high school, he went to work at the Prudential Insurance Company in Newark, pioneering early use of IBM accounting machines. He was extremely proud of his 4 years of service in the U.S. Air Force during the Korean War as an aircraft electrician, stationed in several locations in the U.S. as well as Korea. After discharge in 1954, he returned to Prudential, enrolling in their first computer programming class. In 1956, he married Barbara Barlow and had 3 children and lived in Chatham, New Jersey. Busy building a new family in his career, he was accepted into the Seton Hall Business Management program, where he nonetheless worked overtime, attending evening classes, working towards his BA and then MBA in finance. John's long and successful career in information technology continued, working for Prudential until 1960, and then National Cash Register, American Standard, Citibank, and Auerbach Associates. His last career move was ITT Corp. As Director of Corporate Systems at HQ, Manager of Systems Development at Continental Banking, and IT Management at Sheraton Hotel Corp. John and his wife Barbara lived in Chatham, New Jersey until 1985, retiring to their summer home in Chatham, Massachusetts. In 1987, Barbara died from a long battle with metastatic brain cancer in 1991. After becoming friends through meeting at St. Christopher's Episcopal Church, he married Nancy Whalen in 1993, who had been widowed. John's life in Chatham were some of his fondest, when he and Nancy enjoyed many years participating in church and other organizations and traveling in the U.S. and abroad. Never one to remain idle, he kept busy after retirement with local jobs in banking, real estate, and most notably the Chatham hardware store, which was where he felt at home, working among tools and thinking about DIY projects. His volunteer work included being a member of the HBDC, treasurer of the Creative Arts Centers, vestry of St. Christopher's Church, and other church committees in the choir. One of his greatest pleasures was singing, and he and Nancy were longtime members of the Notables, a popular local singing group. He is survived by his 3 children, 2 stepchildren, his 5 grandchildren, and recently welcomed his first great-grandchild. Karen A. Hyora, 72, of Chatham, passed away at Cape Cod Hospital Tuesday, October 15th, after a period of illness. Karen graduated from the University of Massachusetts Amherst with a degree in special education and was a special education teacher at Eastham Elementary School. She is best known as the manager of the Puritan Cape Cod in Chatham, a position she held for many years. She is survived by her husband Hank, as well as 5 sisters, 2 brothers, and many nieces and nephews. No services are planned at this time. This is a very sad story. You may have heard it on the news. Sharon Kathleen Waldron Hubbard and Margaret Maggie June Hubbard. Sharon Kathleen Hubbard, born May 27, 1989, passed away on October 14th, along with her precious daughter Margaret, born September 23, 2023. Sharon perished while trying to save Maggie from a house fire in Clinton, New York. Shannon grew up in Orleans and moved to Brewster, where she and her husband, John Edward Hubbard IV, started a family with their son, John, daughter, and their family dogs, Maisie, and Mackerel. In addition to John and Jack, Shannon is survived by her parents, Timothy and Nancy Walden of Orleans, her brother, her sister. She was predeceased by her grandparents. Maggie June was predeceased by her grandfather and is survived by her grandmother. Shannon was a graduate of Nauset Regional High School, Eastham, and received her bachelor's degree at Emmanuel College in Boston and earned her master's degree in education from Bridgewater State University. It was in teaching that Shannon found her one true passion, specializing in behavior therapy, special education, and preschool education. A passionate advocate for her students, Shannon was a force to be reckoned with, ensuring needed services were there for her students and their families. Shannon most recently worked at the Chatham Elementary School, where she was chosen to establish the first preschool program. Prior to that, she was a first grade and preschool teacher at Harwich Elementary School. At both schools, she was adored by her colleagues who admired her work ethic and embraced her unique and sharp sense of humor. No record of Shannon's life would be complete without mentioning her 15 years working at the Sunday School Ice Cream Parlor in Orleans, where she became the head scooper. Dozens of summer employees learned how to make a cone, sundae, or shake under her tutelage. The daily specials were posted in her ubiquitous handwriting style. Shannon could start and carry a conversation with anyone. She had a wide circle of friends, many of whom she met during her own preschool years. Her friends described her as being beautiful, loyal, smart, and kind, but balancing that was a sense of humor that was sharp, witty, or as one friend put it, a poetic vulgarness that could highlight the humor or absurdity of any situation. Shannon loved living on Cape Cod and embraced days swimming in the surf on Nauset Beach, watching the sunset at Paynes Creek, and even learning to at least like fishing with her husband John. Her love of the beach was fostered from her earliest childhood by her trips to the family's home, Howgate Cottage, in Wells Beach, Maine. Shannon's greatest love was her family. Her son Jack and her daughter Maggie June were the most precious things in the world to her. She was a devoted mother who found the perfect balance between being the cool, fun mom to one who taught her children manners and responsibility with patience and a smile. Shannon loved to read all genres and being a part of many book clubs. She embraced every part of being a family, calling or texting her mom and sister almost every day, and sending her father and brother photos and videos of her dogs and children. Maggie June will always be remembered for her spunky personality. Nobody who saw her will forget her giggles. She had a perfect smile with a single dimple. She had just gotten her first tooth, was taking her first steps, and loved to dance. Maggie June lit up a room just by being there. She was named after her paternal and maternal grandmothers. A memorial scholarship fund has been set up in the name of Sharon and Maggie June Hubbard to help with the cost of preschool tuition for families. In lieu of flowers, contributions can be sent to the Shannon and Maggie June Hubbard Scholarship. Frederick Howard Weldon Jr. died October 16th at his daughter Catherine's home in Harwich. He was born September 29, 1931 in Hyannis, the son of Frederick Howard Weldon and Doris Harding Weldon Bierce. Fred was 14th generation descendant of Elder William Brewster and Stephen Hopkins, Mayflower Pilgrims, and of Gabriel Weldon, one of the first settlers of Yarmouth. He graduated from Chatham High School in 1949, and after graduating from Bentley College, he served in the Marine Corps during the Korean War, attaining the rank of sergeant. He was attached to the embassy in Jakarta, Indonesia. After his 4 years of military service, Fred worked at W.R. Grace in New York. It was there that he met his first wife, Mary Weldon. When he returned to the Cape, Fred worked for many years at John Hinckley & Sons, where he initiated and ran the employee stock option purchasing program. He was past president of the Chatham Rotary Club and recipient of the Paul Harris Award. A lifelong Yankees fan, Fred happily enjoyed the 16 years he went to the World Series, where he watched 137 games. He saw Reggie Jackson hit 4 home runs. Fred was an avid golfer, and during his retirement, he worked at various golf courses on the Cape. He enjoyed spending winters in Sarasota, Florida, playing endless games of golf, 3 holes in 1, and watched as much winter baseball as he could. Fred was predeceased by his parents, his first wife, his brother. He is survived by his 5 grandchildren, his second wife, his sister, and his brother Howard. Funeral services will be private. Deidre Louise Hedmark, an adored wife, mother, grandmother, and sister, passed away peacefully at her home on Sunday, October 13th, surrounded by her loving family. Born on December 15, 1956, in New York, Dee Dee was the third of 6 children born to Neil and Irene Cronin, both deceased. Deidre attended the University of Massachusetts, Amherst, explored the world as a stewardess for Capital International Airlines, traveling and immersing herself in numerous cultures. Her love for sales began in New York City and in New York Health and Racquet Club. Her passion for travel continued when she attended the Village des Arts en France in Provence, where she met her teacher and love of her life, Kurt Allen Hedmark. After a 6-month courtship, they married and began a charmed life together. Their love story continued when they moved back to New York City, where she began a career in real estate and started their family, later moving to Cape Cod to raise their 4 children. On Cape Cod, Dee Dee continued her successful 40-plus year in real estate, initially going into business with her late brother, Neil Cronin, with Commonwealth Associates, later joining Cape Cod Associates, and eventually finishing her career and finding her home away from home in Gibson Sotheby's International Realty. Dee Dee is survived by 4 adoring children, husband. She also leaves behind her beloved grandchildren. Her 13 nieces and nephews remembered her reverently and are forever grateful to the large family gathering she graciously hosted. Dee Dee's love for her family was unparalleled, and she expressed it through the time she spent with them and the joy she found in sharing life's simple pleasures: sunrises, sunsets, birds, beaches, running, gardening, whale watching, entertaining, porch coffee, and backyard shenanigans. Her children and grandchildren were her ultimate passion and her most treasured accomplishment. She devoted herself to being the best mother and grandmother possible. Deidre's passing leaves a void in the hearts of those who knew her, but her spirit will continue to inspire and guide us. Her sense of humor, love of life, and her ability to make everyone feel like family will be sorely missed but never forgotten. We thank the amazing team of doctors, nurses, and specialists at Dana-Farber for giving us 5 more years, filled with the many quality memories with her that will be treasured forever. New Habitat Homes Dedicated in Brewster by Tribeca Jordan. The Sargent family's new home represents a dream come true. So many people were involved in the making of our dream a reality, said Bernalyn Sargent. More than wood and nails went into making this house. It involved selflessness and a community to turn a house into a home. She spoke at a dedication ceremony on October 19th for 2 homes, including the Sargents, built on Phoebe Way by Habitat for Humanity of Cape Cod. Bernalyn was there with her husband Ryan and their 2 children. The owner of the second home asked that their name and image not be published. I stand here today filled with gratitude and joy to express my sincerest thanks, Bernalyn said at the Habitat event. When we received the call to come into the office to sign more paperwork, I thought, as if the 600-page novel I turned in wasn't enough. However, as soon as we walked through the doors, many words of congratulation filled the room, and tears of joy filled my eyes. A huge wave of relief overcame the realizing that my family and I would have our own home. Habitat for Humanity of Cape Cod has built over 180 affordable homes on Cape Cod since its founding in 1988. It has been a wonderful experience taking part in building our home and working and learning alongside all those amazing volunteers, Bernalyn said. The volunteers have shown a great mentorship and a great sense of humor. Habitat for Humanity of Cape Cod has done so much for our community. As the Sargents thanked volunteers, employees, sponsors, and donors, Bernalyn spoke of joining the cause. It has been inspiring this past year. I've been trying to give back to Habitat for Humanity of Cape Cod. I volunteered at a few fundraising events. My next volunteer service consists of being the net coordinator for the upcoming dentist build. Sea Camp's articles combined at special town meeting by Mackenzie Blue. The Select Board met Monday night to discuss the upcoming warrant for the November 18th fall special town meeting in regards to the Sea Camp properties. One article will go before the voters at the fall session, seeking funding for updates on 2 parcels, one located off Long Pond and another off Cape Cod Bay, which the town plans to modify for recreational use. After comprehensive plans for the properties were approved in May, the 2 planning advisory committees were disbanded and the one official Sea Camps Advisory Committee was created. The advisory committee has met approximately 7 times in September to talk through the proposed financing and planning of both the Bay and Pond properties. On Monday, committee member Carolyn McCarley was in front of the Select Board to revise the existing warrant articles. Originally, there were to be two articles, one for the Pond property and the other for the Bay property. The committees recommended combining those into one warrant article, meaning the plans for both projects will share one pot of money. Town manager Peter Lombardi noted that this would create potential cost savings from a labor perspective. The December 3rd special election ballot will ask residents to vote on an $11 million debt exclusion to finance the project in full. This type of model allows municipalities to raise funds via a temporary property tax increase beyond the normal levy amount. It will not impact the budget for other services already approved by the town. Lombardi said that the town is also seeking approximately $9 million in additional funding through other avenues, such as state grants, to cover more than half of the full scope of work. Nauset Student Teacher awarded by Harvard Club by Ryan Bray. Patrick Clark first met Alia Vasquez when she was recommended by staff at Nauset Region High School to serve on the school's handbook committee as a freshman. I thought, wow, she must be really impressive, the high school principal recalled. And then she came in with maturity and approach that was really beyond her years. Fast forward to the summer when Clark was approached by Karen Van Winkle, former president of the Harvard Club of Boston. Van Winkle had recently moved to Wellfleet, and she approached Clark for recommendation for a student and teacher at the high school that embodied educational excellence. Something was coming up in the fall, and she thought that Nauset should be recognized because she knows there are great things happening here. Vasquez and Andrew Clark, a history teacher at Nauset High School, were among those students and teachers honored by the Harvard Club at a ceremonial breakfast on October 2nd. I was pretty surprised at Vasquez, now a senior. I don't know I've ever gone to anything like that, especially at a place that's so prestigious. It was a huge honor. Principal Clark said that the club honored select students and teachers that demonstrated a deeper love of learning beyond the pursuit of grades and other traditional metrics. Both Andrew and Alia absolutely fit that description, where the curiosity in learning is a priority, he said. Andrew Clark has been teaching at Nauset High School for 29 years, had Vasquez as a sophomore in its AP Art History class. Even as a sophomore, Vasquez rose head and shoulders above her classmates, many of whom were seniors, he said. Her mind is so flexible and her ability to jump between topics fluidly gives a joy to have her as part of the conversation. Vasquez is active in several clubs and extracurriculars at Nauset, where she's a member of the book club, the debate team, and National Honor Society, of which she currently serves as president. She said she also enjoys challenging herself academically. I like taking a bunch of different random classes on subjects I wouldn't normally be taking classes in. When asked to recommend a teacher to be recognized by the Harvard Club, Principal Clark said Andrew's name very quickly came to mind. He called Andrew an outstanding educator who is interested in educating the whole student. First of all, he has a fabulous rapport with students where students know he is pulling for them all the time. He said he wants students to learn, he wants them to grow and become better students. He's constantly modeling how to be a better person. That's an excellent set of characteristics in one person. I was really appreciative and very flattered to be recognized, Andrew said. The October 2nd breakfast offered the student and teacher the opportunity to meet with others being honored, including folks from New York and Maine. They're also treated to a tour of the club, courtesy of Van Winkle, Vasquez said. I thought it was a lot of fun, Vasquez said. I've never been to the Harvard Club before, so it's cool to see everything there. Principal Clark said he was glad to see Vasquez's academic accomplishments recognized, adding that the honor, while deserved, is not something she would readily seek out on her own. She's probably one of the last students you would ever meet who would put herself up for some type of recognition, he said. She's so thoughtful and reflective and just a bright young lady. But the idea of her winning an award or having her photo in the newspaper, her hesitation is, oh God, why me? Like many seniors, Vasquez is busy applying to college and exploring her options for life after Nauset High School. She said she plans to study biochemistry or biomedicine and Spanish. For Andrew, the Harvard Club ceremony left him feeling hopeful about what today's high school students can accomplish moving forward. We hear so much about news about where America is going and what the country's all about, he said. But when you sit in a room like that with the kind of talent, focus, and goal-oriented achievement, it's hard not to feel optimistic about our country. Four-way stop approved for Pleasant Street by William Galvin. Residents in the Pleasant Street area have been seeking a way to slow speeding vehicles that use the public way to avoid traffic along Route 28 in Harwichport. Last week, they got their wish after the Select Board approved installation of a four-way stop at the intersection. Nearly a year ago, 36 residents presented a petition to the Traffic Safety Committee calling for the placement of a four-way stop at the intersection of Pleasant Street and Cross Street as a means of reducing vehicle speeds. Many of those petitioners were before the Traffic Safety Committee again last month, pushing for the installation of a four-way stop. Residents say Pleasant Street is used as a cut-through between Route 28 and Bank Street, and as partly a result of this, they frequently see vehicles traveling at excessive speeds. The sense is that the street is becoming increasingly unsafe. The intersection at Cross Street is about halfway between South and Bank Streets. Believe that placing stop signs there will go a long way to slowing down traffic on Pleasant Street and making the neighborhood safer, reads the petition. The Traffic Safety Committee agreed with the resident. The committee made a request last week to the Select Board to install 2 additional stop signs on Pleasant Street. Cross Street already has stop signs. Police Department Lieutenant Aram Kashgarian, a member of the committee, said residents were before the committee on September 24th expressing their concerns again and calling for the four-way stop. Kashgarian said four-way stops are not normally used as a speed abatement tool, but it doesn't violate state law. The Cape Cod Commission doesn't like using stop signs as traffic calming, but that doesn't say you can't use it. We don't always go along with the Cape Cod Commission, he said. He said he did not think that the four-way stop will cause backups, and he hoped it will address residents' concerns. Select Board member Michael McCaskill asked if there was a board or police department policy governing stop signs. He said it was not against the recommendations, but he was concerned approval would open the door to requests from people in other neighborhoods to slow vehicles. Town Administrator Joseph Paris said he was unaware of a policy. Police Chief Kevin Considine also is not aware of a department policy, adding that the former Police Chief John Reneo in the 1970s put a number of stop signs in place before there was a Traffic Safety Committee. Select Board member Donald Howell said signs do not have the Executive Board's approval, get thrown out in the court setting. I'm not convinced it's going to solve issues, but I hope it helps, said Select Board member Peter Pekarsky. Aram got my support as soon as he said the commission doesn't approve of anything. The board voted to approve the installation of a four-way stop at Pleasant and Cross Streets. Question 5 has little support locally by William Galvin. Question 5 on the November 5th election and ballot proposes a law that would gradually increase the minimum hourly wage an employer must pay a tipped worker over the next 5 years. A yes vote would increase the hourly wage from $6.75 to the state minimum wage of $15. The initiative would also amend a section of the current law allowing the employer to require tip-based service employees to participate in a tip pool to distribute tips to employees that are not waitstaff. The petition is sponsored by the organization One Fair Wage, a national organization of restaurant and service workers. According to the website, One Fair Wage seeks to end all subminimum wages in the United States and increase the sustainability of wages and working conditions in the service section. One Fair Wage position is that employees receive the full minimum wage with fair, non-discriminatory tips on top, which the group say will lift millions of tipped and sub-minimum wage workers nationally out of poverty. A no vote would make no change in law governing tip pooling or the minimum wage for tip workers, according to the state's Information for Voters Bulletin. We're both hard-nosed against it, said Jennifer Ramler, who owns Cape Sea Grill restaurants in Harwichport, with her husband, Doug Ramler. And that's all the time we have today. This has been Elliot at the Audible Local Ledger with Thursday's Cape Cod Chronicle. Enjoy the rest of your day, and We'll be here next week.